So the last topic for CS127 is streams and file IO or file IO streaming. So when we say streams, input is delivered to your program and output from your program is delivered to the output device via special objects. So meaning when we are dealing with the input and output, the basic input and output object that we are created or that we have when we are dealing with input and output is for the input, we always use the keyboard to input the keys or the letters or the special characters within our code. And then output means we see the output using the monitor. So the term stream is supposed to convey the idea that the output is streamed to or from your program without your program being aware of where the input data came from or where the output data goes. So meaning to say, when we're talking about already streaming object in a programming, okay, let's cite an example for that. Let's say, for example, we use the Word or Word document. We type the data and we put it in the Word. So that is actually already like sending the data to the Word file. Okay, Word file means we are already saving the file, okay, or sending the data to a file. So how C++ do that when we are already like sending the file? Now, once we close the file, once we close the Word and we want to again retrieve the data that we created or retrieve the data that we saved, okay, we are already like retrieving the data or retrieving the file. Okay, so that's already like input streaming object in C++. Okay, now file input is handled in essentially the same way as the keyboard input. We have the So it means that the file input is handled in essentially the same way as the keyboard input we have been using up to now, and that file output is handled in essentially the same way as the screen output. Now, if we're talking about file streaming in C++ or in any programming languages, we need to have the objects and the methods. To store and retrieve the data outside the program, we need two portions, the file, okay, and the file stream object. File means, okay, by default, we're going to make use of the text file or the notepad here, this one, the notepad. And notepad will be the text that we're going to send the data and retrieve the data. Okay. Now, how are we going to send the data and retrieve the data from a file? We need to have the file stream object. So we're going to create our user-defined file stream object, like what we did in the structure type, in array, in pointers. We're going to create our own variable for the file streaming object. But this one, we're not calling it as a variable, but instead we call it as the same as structure. We call it as an object. So take note when we say file, a file is a collection of data stored under a common name on an external storage unit. Say for example, this one, okay? So the name of this one is Zoom meeting. So that's the file, okay? A collection of data. This one is external file name. This is the file in a notepad, and we call it Zoom meeting. When you say Zoom meeting, that's already the external file name. That is the unique file name identifying the file to the operating system. Okay, now, external file name must conform to the name specification of the operating system. So if your operating system, of course, this is the old one, the DOS, you can only have a maximum of 8 characters for the name or the length of the name. Okay, in Windows and in Windows platform, like what I had here in my computer, so I can actually name it more than 8 because you can actually use up to 255 characters. Same as Unix version of the platform. Now, in file streaming object in C++, there are only 2 basic data file types that we're going to make use of. But most of the time, we're going to use text. Okay, text is in the notepad. Binary, you can actually open it with a notepad. But what's the difference between the 2 basic data file types? The text is what you see is what you get. This is the value stores in ASCII character or Unicode code character codes. So when you type A, the value of A is still A because the ASCII value, A is included in the ASCII value as well as in the Unicode code. Okay, so this is a character base. So when you say what you see is what you get, when you input A, your output is also A, or the stored value is also A in the notepad. When you press number 2, the stored value is number 2 as well. But when we are dealing with binary data file type, it stores characters in binary form. Okay, not character based. That is not what you see is what you get. Let's say, for example, A. A is, the decimal is 67. It will be converted in binary coded number. So instead of A, you will see like 101100011. So numbers are in binary, okay? Strings are in ASCII or Unicode form. So if, for example, the input value number is 6, so 6 is 101. So you cannot see the value 6, but it will be converted into 101. We can only see ASCII code or Unicode code if the value that we inputted is a string value. But if it's just a character or a number, it will be converted into binary form. Okay, so that's the difference with the two basic data file types. So most of the time, by default, we're going to make use of the text file. So text file is stored in Notepad. Okay, so when we say file streaming, it is a one-way transmission path to connect a physical file to a program. So let's take a look at the illustration here. So this is your program, and this is the disk where you save the file, or this is the storage where you save the file. For example, this is the file. So this one is the file. It is stored in the disk, okay? So now, in file streaming, there are two types of mode in file streaming. This is the input mode and the output mode. So when you say input mode, we move data from a physical file into a program. So if we want to retrieve the file, okay, we're going to code it, retrieve the file, and when we run this program, we can see the file on screen. So how are we going to do that? Retrieving. So retrieving means we are reading the data. Okay, reading the data from a file. That means it is input file streaming. Now, output is when you are sending or writing or saving the data to a file from a program. Let's say, for example, you run the code, you run your program, you type something on screen because, for example, it prompts the user to input something on screen. Once you input the value, okay, it will open the file and it will send the file, or it will send the data to a file. And that is what we call output streaming. Now, a stream is a flow of characters or other kind of data. Okay, it's either, in our case, that's a character. Okay, it can be also like in a form of image. It can be in a form of a text or a string. So if the flow is into your program, the string or the stream is called an input streaming. So from from the file going to the program, we call it input streaming. But if the flow is out of your program, that means you are sending, okay, sending your data to the file inside the storage, we call it output streaming. Okay, if the input stream flows from the keyboard, then your program will take input from the keyboard. If the input stream flows from a file, then your program will take its input from the file. So similarly, an output stream can go to the screen or to a file. Okay, so that's the output streaming. Now, in the case of input streaming and output streaming, for the input streaming, we have already used the cin for the input stream connected to the keyboard, and cout streaming connected on the screen. So we're not going to make use of cin and cout, but rather we're going to create our own, okay, object for the input and output streaming. So take note that you cannot use the word cin and the cout for the input-output streaming because that's already a keyword in C++. So we need to use another type of streaming object. So in this example, we have in stream. And then you have the greater than sign. So that means this is the same thing as cin. Okay, meaning you are already extracting or you are retrieving the data, okay, from a particular file and you are assigning it to the number. Now, this one is output streaming because you use outstream and then the less than sign. This means that you are already sending the data. What data? If this is the notepad, Okay, if this is the notepad and you use outstream, the number is then the number. If the value of the number is 80, this notepad will contain the value of the number is, for example, 9. So that will be the the value that has been sent to the file, because we use the outstream. That means sending the data to a file. What are the data? This string and this number. So the string is the number is, and then the value is 9. Okay, so once the strings are connected to the desired files, your program can do file IO or input outputs the same way it does in the input output using the keyboard and the screen. So later on, I'm going to give you an example of the input and output streaming. So the file we'll use for input-output streaming are text files. As mentioned a while ago, we're going to make use of the notepad. Okay? That is, they are the same kind of files as those that contain your C++ program. So that means, take note of this, class. If your program is in a folder, okay, so I named this folder as FileStream. This one, this FileStream. When you run if this is your program and you open your program and you run it in C++, once you run the program, all the text pad or the notepad should be saved also within the same directory or the same storage, okay, from the program and also as well as from the notepad. So they are in the same file directory. It should be on the same file directory. Please take note of that. When your program takes input from a file, again, it is said to be reading from a file, or this is retrieving the data from the file. When your program sends output to a file, it is said to be writing to the file or saving or sending the data to the file. So that's reading and writing. Okay. Now, to send output to a file, your program must first connect to the file to a stream object of the class Fstream. Okay, if you are going to, if you want to send that data in a particular file, you need first to use the Fstream. Okay, Fstream is the data type for output streaming, and for the input, okay, or for the reading or retrieving the data from a file, your program must first connect to a file stream object of the class Fstream. So if you are already like pertaining to retrieving the data from a file, you need to use the data type Fstream. Okay, and if you're using the Fstream and the Fstream, you should add another header file, or you should have another type of preprocessor directive that runs the Fstream and the Fstream, and that is the Fstream Library. Okay, so the syntax, the correct syntax is either you use the sharp include Fstream using namespace std, or you may also use using std : Fstream and Fstream. Okay, so how are we going to declare that? So this one is the data type for the input streaming, and this one is the object for your retrieving the data to a file or input streaming. This one is the data type for the Fstream, and this one is the object you're going to make use of when you are sending or writing the data to a file. So now, once you created already your input streaming and output streaming, or if you want to read the data, or if you want to send data to a file, you need first to use the opening of the file. So opening the file means you're already like, before retrieving the data, you need to open the file first. And if you want to send the data, you need to open the file first before you send the data. Like what we did in Microsoft Word document. How are you going to type if the Word document is not open? So you need to open it first. So how are we going to open it? We're going to use the stream object. It's either the input or the output streaming object. And then the method .open. Okay, .open, and then followed by the parentheses. Within the parentheses will be your file name. Okay, will be your file name. So automatically, then we'll open the file. Okay, so the extension format of the file format should be the .txt, because we're going to use the notepad.
Yes, po.
So take note that you can specify a path name a directory or folder when giving the file name. So if you're going to take a look at my program here, okay, so it should be in the file stream. This is my first example to you later on. And when I use the open method and I need to create a file, automatically when you use output streaming, it will automatically create a text file named hello. So later on, you will see. Okay, so for now, since I'm not running yet the program or the code, you cannot see anything from the FileStream folder that is already created in a notepad. So later on, you will see the created notepad once we run and execute the code for this one. Okay? Okay, now, so let me just give you an example for a programming now. Okay? I'm going to create a new one. Let's save this, save as on the same directory. So directory desktop, and then I'm going to look for file stream, and then this is file stream example 1. Okay. So again, I need to have sharp include iostream, sharp include, let's have iomanit. Let's just include that. Sharp include maybe the C string. And then, of course, the important one is sharp include Fstream for the streaming object. Then we have using namespace std. Okay, then we have the main program, begin and end. Okay, so for the declaration, let's try first the sending data to a file. Okay, so if I'm going to have to write or send or save the data to a file, I'm going to make use of the data type of string. And then I'm not going to make use of cout because cout is already been used by the C++ compiler. That's the keyword for output streaming when we are running the code and we want to see the output on screen. So in this case, let's just try dout instead of cout. Okay. And then after that, the first thing you're going to do is you need to open a file. Okay. So manually, if you want to open the file, open a file, you can already use the offstream object, which is the dout, and then dot, and then you type open, and then inside the parenthesis should be a double quotation mark. That means the file name is considered already as a string class value. Okay, when you open it, when you are opening the file, so automatically when you type something on the double quotation mark, for example, sample prog prog1 .txt, you should also put the file format, semicolon. Okay, so let's just run this simple code. Then automatically you will then see that a file sample prog will then be created with the same thing in same folder on where we save the file stream example 1.cpp. So let's run the code. Okay, so if you're going to take a look at the output, of course, there's no output, but if you're going to see that there's already an additional file, which is sample prog here. Okay, but sample prog doesn't have any value yet, or there's no text or any value within the sample prog. So that means automatically, when you use that open and the output streaming, automatically the value will be created also as well. Okay, so now how are we going to send data to a file? Okay, so for example, you cout, enter your name, semicolon. So let's declare string here and then name. This is just an example. Then get line, cin, and then name. Okay, then cout your name is name. Okay, so when we use cout, this means that the output is actually sees on screen, not sending the data to a file. The data is the name. Okay, so we can actually send the name. We can also send this if you want. Okay, let's have the option 1 and option 2. So if I'm going to run this code, okay, let's close first the file. So you need to close the file. No. So when you open this notepad, you need to close it first before you send the data to a file. But this one, it will not send anything from the sample prog text or notepad yet. Okay, so this one is just displaying the value on screen. So once we run this code, it will just ask for the name and output on screen, your name is Gloren Fuentes. But here, there's no your name is Gloren Fuentes. So how are you going to send the data to the file? So instead of using the cout, you need to use the object from the upstreaming object, which is dout. Dout, same thing as this one. You may use also this one. Okay. Dout, your name is name. So let's run the code. Okay. Gloren Fuentes. Press enter key. Your name is Gloren Fuentes, and then since I use the dout streaming object for sending the file or sending the data to the file sample prog1, okay, once we open the file, there's already your name is Gloren Fuentes. Now, what if ma'am, I don't like with the your name? You just send the name. I just want to send the name. So you just send the name without the your name is. Let's run again the code. Gloren Fuentes. And then when you run, when you open the file, there's Gloren Fuentes. So if you're going to take and observe the file, once we rerun the code, the previous value is overwritten by the new one. Okay? So let's have another example. So in this case, again, we are pertaining to an output streaming object, which is dout. So that means this program is sending the data to a file. So what type of file? The name of the file or the external file is hello.txt or hello. And then we're going to ask the user to enter 4 numbers. Then while doing the input numbers on screen, it has been already sending the values of the 4 numbers from the file because of this dout. Then it will display data has been saved. So take note of this. Once you open it, should be close also the file. By closing the file, you just only use the object stream or the object streaming or object file streaming object, which is the dout. Here we use the dout, and then the method that close with parentheses but without already the hello.txt. Okay, so take note of that. This is the correct format when you are closing the file. No more double quotation mark and the file name or the external file name within the parentheses, only a parenthesis. So let's run the code first. Let's see when you run the code, automatically there will be a hello text file here. Okay, so it will created or it's already created the text file here, the hello.txt. Okay, then you are asking the user to input 4 number. Let's say for example 6, 7, 5, 4, and 5. Okay, so when you press the enter key, it will prompt the user that the data has been saved. And of course, the file has been closed already since we finished inputting the values of 4 numbers. Now, once we click the hello, 4 numbers has been saved to a file. Okay? Okay, now what if? What if, ma'am, I don't like to put the hello.txt and I want to create my own file. If you want to create your own file, you may actually ask the user first here. So I'm going to use string first and then file name, semicolon. So cout Okay, cout, enter file name. So I may do that. And then I can use cin. Don't use with a space because a file name in C++ doesn't have a space. So take note of that. That's why I'm going to make use of cin. Even the file name is a string type of value, do not use getLine in the file name. Please take note of that. Only cin. We only use a name without a spacing. If you have a spacing, there will be a problem with your file name. So cin, and then we have file name, semicolon. And then you need to, since we are talking about text or notepad, you need to concatenate the file name with .txt. So that means file name plus equals .txt to make it whatever your file name is. Okay, now how are we going to open the file since you input the file? So we're not going to make use of this one. So we're going to use file name, okay, .c underscore str. Okay, so we are opening the file name. Why, ma'am, you use the C underscore str? Because in C++, when you are dealing with the file name, it is still considered as a character string, not a string type. But we declare string here and file name. So we need to convert the string into character string. Okay, so we need to do that because we ask the user as a string class, not a character string. So we need to convert file name into a character string because C++ compiler is originally the file name or the notepad is considered as a character string. So let's run this code. Okay. So let's run the code. So enter file name. Okay, so for example, I use sample1. So do not use the existing one first, no? Sample one. So we have the existing hello, sample prog. Later on, I'm going to teach you how to, if for example, what if the file is already existing, how are we going to overwrite or append the data? But this one, let's assume that the file name is not yet, it's not existing yet. So sample one. So once I press the enter key, you will see in the FileStream folder, it will then create sample1.txt. Okay, sample1. This is the sample1. Enter 4 numbers, 8, 9, 11, and 12. Once press the enter key, data has been saved. Open sample1, 8, 9, 11, and 12. All right, so we're done with sending the data or writing the data to a file. So let's say, for example, we want now to retrieve the data. Retrieve the data from a file. So in this case, we're not going to make use of the offstream. So in this case, we use ifstream. Then another object, instead of dout, we're going to make use of the din. So instead of cin, because we cannot use cin since cin is a keyword already in C++ and it runs in the IO stream. Okay, so din will run in the fstream since we use ifstream data type. Now, let's say, for example, we want to output hello.txt. Let's check what's the value of hello. Hello has 4 values, okay? So 4 values. So manually, we can actually assign this one as num1, num2, num3, and num4. Okay? So let's just use the manual thing first before we do the other way around or the other alternative solution for that on how are we going to read the data, okay, from a file. So this one, let's assign this one into one variable, second variable, third variable, and fourth variable. I'm closing this one again. Okay, so in this case, I am creating a variable num1, num2, num3, num4, and this will assign on the first value. This one is for the second value. Third is this one, and the fourth is this one. All right, so we have to assign 4 variables to retrieve the value from hello.txt, which is the 6, 7, 4, and 5. So how are we going to do that? So again, we need to use the open method to open the file hello.txt before retrieving the data. Okay, then this one is another method. Okay, so this one is when this method is a method when you want to test if the file is existing or not existing. Okay, so earlier we do not use this one, but this time we're going to make use of the dot fail. So for example, if hello.txt is already existing, hello.txt fail false. So if that is false, it will not exit and will not display this, but instead it will display file is existing, extracting values in hello.txt. Let's not use the \n. We may use the end L instead of the \n. This one also we can use end L. Then system pause, then we may already retrieve the data D in num1, num2, num3, num4. Okay, then to display the value extracted inside the notepad, we need also to use cout to see it on screen. Okay, so cout num1, same thing as what we saw in in the hello.txt. It's actually first number, the next line, second number, next line. If you do not want to make it the first number, next line, if you want to display it only horizontally, do not use the end L. Instead, use a space between numbers. And then, for example, we want to compute for the sum of 4 numbers. So you may already use num1, num2, num3, num4 because we already extracted this value and then add it. And then the file has been retrieved. That means we already retrieved the data. And then again, on the last part, you need to close the file. Okay, using din as the object of input streaming and close as the method in closing the file. Okay, so let's run the code. So again, take note that hello contains 6745. So 6 plus 7, 13 plus 4, 17 plus 5, 22. So let's run the code. File is existing, extracting values in hello.txt. 6745, sum of 4 numbers equals 22, and the file has been retrieved. So let's just remove the hello.txt again. Let's ask the user what file he or she want to open. So I'm going to create another string file name here. And then I'm going to cout, enter your desired file. Okay. And then cin again, don't forget that we are using cin, not getLine, because file name should be a single name only without a space. Okay, so this one is file name, semicolon, then again, file name plus equals .txt, semicolon. And then here, we're not going to use this. Again, we use file name .c_str. Okay, then it will check if the string is if the file name is existing or not, and then it will display the value. If not, then it should display file is not existing. So let's run the code. So we have only hello sample1 sample prog1.txt. So if we run the code, let's say for example, I am typing Gloren. So Gloren is not within the directory. It only has hello sample1 and sample prog1. Once I press the enter key, file is not existing, and then ends the program. Okay? But if the file is existing, let's just use the for loop we have. For int I is equals to 1, I is less than, let's have 10, and less than or equals to 10, and then I plus plus, and then let's have sleep 500, cout the dot sign, just to make ano lang. Okay, then we need to use sharp include windows dot h, and then let's add also sharp include cstd. Okay, so let's extracting. So let's just change this. extracting values in. Ayan. Let's have file name. Okay. So let's run the code again. I just revised something on the code. So again, if my file name is incorrect, for example, again, Dorin, file is not existing. Once I run the code again, and I'm going to type sample 1. So sample 1 is existing. File is existing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Extracting values in sample 1.txt. 5, 6, 7, 8. Sum of 4 numbers equals to 26. File has been retrieved. So let's have another sample programming. What if you do not want to overwrite the data from the file? You just want to add some more data within the file. So we need to use another method, which is ios : app or append. It means appending the data to a file. What file? From hello.txt. We specify again the file name, enclosed in a double quotation mark. So again, in this case, we're going to send the data to a file since we use Fstream layout. Okay, then we're going to ask another 4 numbers. So that means if hello contains already 6, 7, 4, and 5, and we want to again send the data to a file, 4 numbers, so automatically it will then add the data here after 5. Okay, so it will add 4 numbers again after 5. So let's close this file and then let's run this one. You should use the ios : app to append the data to a file. Okay, so let's run the code. Enter 4 numbers. So let's say 11, 12, 13, 14. Data has been saved. Open hello, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the file has been appended. The data has been appended to the file. Let's have another example. So since we're done with the main program and we're done dealing with input streaming and output streaming, so let's use another example. So here I already revised the content of hello. Once we open the hello, there are actually in one single line, there are 3 values. Values, the item, the quantity, and the price per item. Okay, so if we're going to take a look at this one, there are 3 columns all in all. Okay, so the first column is for the item. The second column is for the quantity. And the third column is for the price of the item. So let's close that. So first is we're going to, for example, if you want to add more values or you want to add more data within the hello.txt, then we can do that by using again the ios : app. So in this case, we're going to create now a function declaration for us to call that particular get read and get retrieve or get read or get write or get send. Okay, so in calling a function with a file streaming object, we always use the void data type. Then let's name it as get send or get write. So for the get write, we're going to make use again the Fstream data type, but this time pass by reference. So the streaming objects are considered as pass by reference. So we need to put and include the ampersand sign. Okay, and then we need to use a variable or a parameter for the Fstream. So let's say, for example, x dout, since we use dout for our file streaming object, semicolon. Then the other one is void get read. Okay, then we have to use so this should be if get off. Get read is if stream ampersand sign, and then here xdn instead of dn. Dn, we're going to make use of that in our main program. Okay, now here, so we need to highlight this one and put it below the main program. We're going to call that later on for the writing if it's if we want to write some data to a file. And then here the next one is get read if we want to retrieve first the data to a file. In and in. Okay, so in this case I'm going to declare, so from the main program I'm going to declare my file streaming object of stream d out and if stream d in. Okay. Okay, so let's first retrieve the data, or if you want, we can actually have, for example, see out, let's have the menu options. Send data to a file. Number 2 is retrieve the data. Enter your choice. Okay. And then we need to have here, let's just use car opt. So cin opt semicolon. Okay. Then let's use switch case, switch opt. Then case 1, single quote case 1, this is for sending the data. Then we have break case 2. This is retrieving the data. And then we have the break. Okay. So here, so let's send data to a file. So we're going to have, let's have the curly brace here. So all the syntax will be within the curly braces po. Okay, so for sending the data, we can actually declare, let's have the declaration here again. Let's try again string, and then we have the file name. Okay, string file name. So I'm going to have cout, enter file name. Okay, and then again cin file name. Then file name plus equals .txt. Okay. So once we already concatenate the value, let's open using dout. So dout dot open, and then we have to use file name .c_str semicolon. Okay, and then let's once we open the file, okay, let's try to test if dout dot fail. Okay, so if the file is not existing, let's just display cout file name is not existing. And then let's exit the code. Okay, let's try first initially. So this is Fstream long. Okay, so we have the choices. So for 1, enter file name. So for example, Glorin. So there's no Glorin. So wait, let's save this. Save as. It's here. Okay. Okay, so let's run again the code. So 1, then I type Glorin. Why it's not if the out that fail. So this one, since we are retrieving the data, it should be D in, not D out. You are retrieving if the file is existing or not. Okay, so if I run the code again, and I want to send data to a file, let's check what's the file here. So we have hello sample. So now, if I'm going to try Glorin, again, Glorin should not be not existing. So D out should be also D in. So let's run again the code. Then I want to choose one, Glorin. So glorin.txt is not existing. Okay, so it will not execute anything from the file. But for example, if the file is existing, let's have it here. Cout, file name is existing. File opening. Let's have the dot. Okay. So once file is opening, let's have now the we are sending the file. File is 16. Okay, cout. So we need to have cout. File is opening, and then we need to ask the user, do you want to append data? Because we need to append the data. We are going to send data to a file, right? So we need to append the data. Do you want to append data? Then yes, no. Okay, so this is a long code. Okay, so cin. So let's have again car ans. Cin ans. And we have if ans. Ans is equals to upper ans. If ans is equals to n, that means we're not going to do anything. So we're going to exit the code. Exit 1. Okay. So if not, exit 1. But if it's false, let's continue the code. So if it's true, or if it's yes, so it's not exiting, we are going to append the data to a file. So we're going to use now dout. We're going to open now the file. Okay, the file name .c_str. Okay, and then we're going to make use of the comma iOS : app. That means while opening this file, we're going to append the new data to a file. Okay, so now, since here we're going to write the data, okay, so let's call the get right now. So get right, and parentheses, let's have dout. Okay, since dout is the FileStream object that we use for sending the data. Okay, get right, and then dout. Okay, so here we're going to have cout, enter. So I may use here the declaration of string item, and then int for the quantity, and then double for the price. Okay, so enter item. Then let's use cin only for the item. Okay, cin item, then cout, enter enter quantity. So cin qty, then cout, enter price, hp, cin price. Now, to send the data to that particular file name, okay, so we need to use the xdout. So that's the parameter of dout, the xdout. So xdout, so let's send the item. Then we have the space. Remember, we have spaces, qty, space, and then we have the price. Then let's have enter semicolon. Okay, and then let's just cout here. File has been saved. Enter. Okay, so let's try Let's try first this one. So let's run the code. To upper. Single quote N. Capital to upper. Let's run again the code. Okay. So here we have hello sample and sample prog. We are talking about the hello. So we're going to add another type of items here in the hello. So let's try first number 1. Okay, enter the file name hello. Hello txt is existing file opening. Do you want to append data? If I press no, then it will just exit the code. And let's see what happened to hello. There's no additional value here. Okay, so let's run again the code. Okay, then I press 1 again. File name is hello. Okay. Hello.txt is existing. Do you want to append the data? Yes. So enter item. Let's say for example, tornillo. Item quantity, let's have 20 items or 20 pieces of tornillo. Then tornillo price is like, for example, 45.75. And file has been saved. Let's open the hello. Tornillo is there. Okay.